call a meeting to order with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our clerk is planning on being here, but told me she'd have to be a little late this evening. And Kim Rice let me know that she'll be out. So with that, anybody willing to serve as clerk for this evening?
I nominate Trustee Bills. Support.
A motion by Smith, support by Brown. Any other nominations or anybody else wanting to step up? Seeing none. All in favor of Trustee Bills playing clerk this evening? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you, Trustee Bills.
Yes, sir.
With that, would you be willing to do a roll call of the board, please?
Yes, sir. If I can find a piece of paper, I'm gonna do that. Here we go. Oh, thank you, sir. Trustee Zaring?
Here.
Trustee Brown?
Here.
Trustee Smith?
Here.
And Supervisor Milky?
Here?
Trustee Bill's here. And Clerk Cody is gonna be late, and Treasurer Rice is excused.
Thank you very much. We have a fairly light agenda this evening, but I'm happy to entertain any motions.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Support.
Motion by Smith. I think I'll give this one to Bills. Any discussion? All in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Agenda passes unanimously. We have no presentations, nor public hearings tonight. Commissioner Engler often joins us, but not here tonight. Public comment is restricted to 3 minutes regarding items on this agenda. If you choose to address the public, please state your name and address for the record. And we will open up public comment at 7:02 p.m.
Lori Rogers, 2248 Cornerstone Drive, Mount Pleasant. Since there wasn't much on the agenda, it says only talk about the agenda, so I guess I'll talk about something else. But you guys have, I don't know if you've been doing this different years, amounts of time, each of you, and I've learned so much in talking to business owners and residents, and I hope I get the opportunity to sit over there and do my best, like you guys are all working to do for our community. We, no matter Democrat or Republican, we need to work together for our community, bottom line. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for running.
Still going.
Let the record show nobody is connected remotely and no one else coming forward in person, so we'll close public comment at 7:03 p.m. That takes us to report boards and comments. I know Treasurer Rice would correct me if I missed something here, but I believe there's one ZBA appointment. No. One board review, we need an alternate. We have a planning commission seat open. I think those are the two. I didn't look at it this week, but
That's
just a
what it looks
reminder.
like, sir.
Mm-hmm.
We have our July monthly activity report in our packet. Anybody look at that, have any questions?
No questions.
Did you want to highlight anything out of it?
No.
Okay. Our Community and Economic Development Director is not with us this evening, so we'll not have a presentation by him. So we'll go to board member reports. Trustee Thering, you can do Mr. Nanny's job.
Yes, sir. At our last meeting, we had discussion in regards to PTX 24-01 zoning text amendments, section 11 in regarding signs. That is something that after discussion, the Planning Commission decided to approve to hold a public hearing for that. And then we started discussion on the 2018 sidewalk and pathway construction policies. So far, there was just a little bit of wording that we had discussion with Mr. Nanny. He's going to make some changes, and then we'll take another look at it again, and I wouldn't be surprised that we'll be seeing that in front of us before too long with the Planning Commission suggestions. So,
Do you feel the Planning Commission's pleased with how it's shaping at this point?
I think so, yeah. I
Okay.
mean, it was, again, another really good discussion. You learn an awful lot. It's really hard to get detailed notes of what people say because I have to be engaged in the conversation. So I'm kind of giving you the rough idea of what we did. There was some things that we tweaked, maybe moved some words from the bottom of the paragraph to the top. It was great. Mr. Nanny seemed to like some of the suggestions, actually liked all the suggestions that the Planning Commission gave, which was great. So,
Awesome.
yeah, it was a good meeting. Yes, ma'am.
I was just wondering if you could elaborate on this, this PTX 2401. What is it about sign sizing for businesses? Or?
Yeah, that's not really. I mean, again, if I were to write every little thing down, I wouldn't know exactly. You know what I mean? It was just it wasn't a very long discussion. There was some. Did I bring it? I did bring it. I don't really have any notes in here. Typically, when we go through things like this, I'll make notes of things that we did. We didn't really do much of anything in that regards. There was a few questions asked, but there was no, that I recall, there was no changes made to the existing text. So
When will the hearing be?
I believe that takes a little bit of time. I think it has to get into the paper. To be honest with you, I can't actually answer the exact timing of that. I don't know if that'll be in time for the next Planning Commission meeting. But it has to go.
Oh, it'll be at the next meeting, maybe?
It's possible. I mean, because
see.
it has to go to the public to have their opportunity
All right.
so that they can come in
Yeah.
to our meeting. So I don't know if that's something that can be done before the next meeting in 30. Well, be less than 30 days now. But our meeting was last
Thank you.
Tuesday. So
And ultimately, that's something that comes before us afterwards, correct?
I would imagine everything
It's a-
comes before
it's a
us. Yeah.
Zoning text amendment, so
Yeah.
we'll see that ultimately.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, there was discussion, but at the end of the day, there wasn't any. I don't recall because I don't have any notes in here. And like I said, normally I'll put a line through and write some notes off to the side, and I don't have any, so I don't recall
Bless you.
anything that we changed anything to what was already
there.
recommended.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, because they've already gone through it. Mr. Nanny and his staff have went through it and made some recommendations. So.
Cool.
I'll send out something to the board explaining that in a little bit more detail. The public hearing at the Planning Commission, which there'll also be one here, I believe, too, that is August 20th,
Okay.
is when that's been posted.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I think it was back in about 2012. I was on the Planning Commission and ended up being a committee to work on new sign ordinance. And that was a lot of work, and I learned way more about signs than I ever thought I would.
Who would have thought when you went into lumens and everything else and display and how far and monument signs versus, yeah, that's,
And you always forget something.
it's
and
extensive.
Yes, I was amazed at how much work that was. Well, thanks for all you guys.
It's
the
an
Planning
interesting
Commission does.
discussion. That's for sure.
You good?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Trustee Brown?
Yeah, so the Mount Pleasant City Commission, Monday, July 22nd, 7 PM meeting. They introduced a new human resource administrative assistant, Allie Rich. Also introduced assistant to the city manager, Katie Lemarie. I hope I pronounced that right. So there were some introductions at the beginning of the meeting, but then there was a presentation on the 2024 mid-year goals and objective progress. There was a lot of discussion at the city meeting on this. And if you, a lot of notes on it, but if you want to go in and check it out, it's on their YouTube on streaming. You can watch the meeting, but there was a lot of good conversation there. Also, in new business, and you may have seen it in the Morning Sun. They did a write-up on it. The commissioner or the city commission passed for 2 new motorcycles that they're going to use for a lot of different stuff in the city. They already have motorcycle patrol since, I don't know, like the mid-90s they started, but they've always, I believe, always gone with the Harleys, but they've gone with a couple BMWs this time. So, and they're outfitting that. Those will also be used on the bike pass. I found out at nights and stuff when they have calls and when they have to get down through the parks
Yeah.
and
Good
through the
call.
bridges and where they can't get through like the dams, they use those motorcycles. So, yeah, so that was excellent. And then they also considered approval. Well, they did approve the purchase of a detective vehicle. But that was pretty much it on the city commission.
Awesome.
So,
Thank you. Trustee Bills,
I'm all set, thank you.
Trustee Smith.
I attended the road commission for Clerk Cody this month, general contracts and maintenance updates and what they're doing. One thing that was of interest is that in light of the solar park that's coming in north of here, they secured a pre-funding amount from DTE for the roads to take care of the roads during the construction phase and after the construction phase.
Wow.
So they've already secured the necessary funding, and from what we were told at the meeting is that this is the first type of contract that a road commission has entered in with DT for this amount. And so a lot of the other road commissions across the state are using this as a template now. And so they secured a lot of funding on that, which was good for them and good for the roads up there in Isabella Township mainly. I attended the Isabella County Board of Commissioners meeting on the 16th. That lasted 2 hours and 15 minutes. They tend to get into a lot of lengthy discussions, and Commissioner Engler was here last meeting. He was talking about a lot of the PA 116s approvals that needed to be done for that solar project. So they went through all those. The jail is about 80% complete. They do have a budget draft number 2 done for the general fund, and according to this, the 2025 recommended is balanced as of now. When they did the first requested, there was a shortfall of 590,000. So they were able to find some additional revenue sources, decrease of expenses. So right now, their draft number 2 as of July 9th is a balanced budget for the general fund. So that's a good sign. On their, for the recycling center, I know they come and did a presentation where they're using this as like kind of the spoke and hub, where they're bringing in all sorts of different counties. So right now, the interlocal agreement between Isabella County, Clare, Gladwin, Gratiot, Mecosta, Midland, Ogama, and Osceola. An interlocal agreement to establish and manage a multi-county materials management plan. So that's a very positive step in which not only hopefully will increase recycling rates in the area, but it's also going to provide funding for the MRF. And hopefully that can be a little bit more self-sufficient. So that's all positive there. Looking at some Eagle grants that are mainly related for the solar project, in which some of it would be for permitting, which would be a share between the county and the township up there for some fees associated with all the permitting. And then they just did a decommissioning agreement and bond on that solar project. So that's it in a nutshell. You got any questions?
So on the MRF, just a note, I had a conversation with someone from the county. Forgive me for not remembering who now. But I think they told me that they needed 6 counties to sign on with them.
And
To-
they got 8 now.
Yeah, they got 8, and so I think that sounds very promising for the MRF.
Yes, and I think they even developed a name. It was Heartland something. I don't know. I don't want to say, but they had a really. I should have wrote it down. I apologize, but it was a really catchy name for this group and stuff. So it's really nice to see that. I think my own opinion is just when you see something like this go, there might be some more surrounding counties and stuff that will
Yeah.
join and stuff. So it's a really positive thing for the county right now.
Awesome. I'm going to show some ignorance here, but my assumption was the solar projects wouldn't have the same demand for trucks as far as the weight and size that the wind turbines did.
Just with the amount of
Traffic?
getting materials and the traffic and stuff, that's what they were mainly concerned about. It's kind of a similar deal that they had with Apex. Typically, they don't have these type of solar, so they're just trying to make sure that they're not having to go back and on that and stuff. But yes, your a lot with your wind is that you're having to recreate a lot of roads for the wide turn radiuses for the 90-foot, 100-foot blades and stuff like that. But you're not dealing with that. But you still have heavy with all the panels and all the everything else. It is still very heavy, and some of those aren't Class A roads. So you're really beating it up. And when you're looking at how many acre,
Yeah,
227 acres,
Holy
there's a
cow.
lot of
that's what it is. Wow.
227 acres. So that's significant amount of stuff that's going on those roads. So that's good that they got that done in advance.
Awesome. Anything else? Thank you. Director Nanny's not here, so I get to talk about EDA. It was actually it was a lengthy meeting last week, primarily a closed session. What's public about the closed session is that we were looking at a commercial appraisal of a piece of property we were considering maybe purchasing to rehabilitate. Ultimately, what came out of that is no action at all, so it stands where it was before that meeting. But that took us nearly 2 hours, and that was all we did.
Thank you.
We are doing board member reports. Do you have anything, Clerk Cody? No? I'm glad you're here. We have a consent agenda in front of us. I'll note there are 3 resolutions within this. We have a light agenda. If someone wants to move those out, I think all 3 of those can be taken quickly, and that way we can do individual roll calls. If you prefer to do a single roll call on the consent agenda, that can be applied, obviously, to all 3 resolutions.
I move to approve the consent agenda with a single roll call vote.
Support?
Support? No? Okay.
Motion by Bills. I think I heard Smith first. You okay with that, Trustee Brown?
I am fine.
No fisticuffs.
I am perfectly fine.
You don't have to sign any resolutions then if they pass.
Yeah, I'm good.
We have a motion to accept the consent agenda, including the 3 resolutions, with a roll call vote. Any discussion? You all looked through the resolutions and.
Interesting. It's interesting about the distillery license. I thought he made enough booze already.
Yeah, I like seeing that one. The traffic study surprised me a little bit that they want to do a traffic study in Somerton. What was the 3rd one? I'm trying to remember now. I read them earlier.
Consumers Energy.
Consumers
Yeah,
energy, the
yes,
street light.
yep. So all seemed positive things to me. So any other discussion on the consent agenda? Clerk Cody, would you do a roll call on the motion to approve consent agenda, including the 3 resolutions?
Supervisor Milky,
Yes.
Clerk Cody, yes. Trustee Bills,
Yes.
Trustee Brown,
Yes.
Trustee Smith,
Yes.
and Trustee Thering.
Yes.
All yeses.
Consent agenda passes unanimously. Don't forget to stay and sign some paperwork after.
Yes, sir.
That moves us on to our new business. I didn't have a chance to print out my packet, which I like to have also in front of me, so forgive me for a moment. But new business, the first item is Policy Governance 2.0, Executive Constraints. This is yours, Mr. Stuhldreher, if you're willing to introduce it.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. The report, the administration's report, is on page 104 of your agenda packet. July is the month where you review Policy 2.0, Global Executive Constraints, and you may recall that the whole section in the policy document, all of Section 2, is about executive limitations, which says what we're not allowed to do. It's kind of the box that you create for us to work within. The policy wording, township manager shall not cause or allow any practice, activity, decision, or organizational circumstance which is either unlawful, imprudent, or in violation of commonly accepted public administrative practice and professional ethics. I interpret that policy to mean or indicate that all applicable ordinances, state statutes, other laws are to be adhered to by staff, and that we are to strive for implementing best practices across all aspects of the organization. I feel that's a reasonable interpretation based on the wording of the policy itself. There's some data in the report that I think is applicable to this policy. The 2023 audit received its highest opinion, which is good. There was a corrective action plan that we needed to do. I have that copy in your packet as well. We are following our investment and credit card policies that were approved by the Board of Trustees. Our water, wastewater staff, many of them require certification levels, whether it's in the water area, the wastewater area, as part of minimum requirements for their position. They have those, and in many cases they have additional certifications that allow us a lot of flexibility to move people around as needed. The department director over there is in good standing with her association, as is the community and economic development director with the Association of Planners. I'm in good standing with the ICMA's Code of Ethics. Finance director's in good standing with the Code of Ethics that's in the Government Finance Officers Association program. We recently updated the chart of accounts to remain in adherence with the Treasury's rules. That was actually about a 2-year-long exercise to get that finally done. We've had a couple deadlines for reporting of the use of ARPA funds. For those regulations, those have all been done timely. We adhere to all the rules as it relates to the FOIA requests. And then we did, the organization, primarily me, provided guidance to the Mid-Michigan Aquatic Recreational Authority during their, while they were in stand-up mode, so that they would comport, because they were just less knowledgeable of these public sector rules, comport with things like adopting budgets and the OMA Act, Open Meetings Act, those kind of things. So based on all that, I feel that we're in compliance with this policy. Be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
I just want to thank you for adding the corrective action plan. And with this right here, I think it's very informative, and something that the public should know, that the audit finding, it was nothing really maliciously done or anything like that. It was a drain issue on properly recording the long-term debt. It just, one of those things, communications between the county and the township just fell through the cracks. So it's not like anything structural or anything that there's nothing bad going on. So just want to make sure people understand that that's what it is. Well, I know when people hear corrective action, it's kind of like, a big thing, but thank you for including that in the packet.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments?
Well, I mean, since I've been on the board, I don't think we've had any other what do you call that? Statement by the auditor that wasn't their best statement, so, recommendation or whatever you call it.
We do have debt service payment obligations as part of that relationship.
Mhm.
Those were made timely. It was about how the long-term, we had not booked our portion, Township's portion of the debt that was issued for Mission Creek maintenance in the long-term debt section of the balance sheet.
I guess I missed that clarification when we discussed it before, so I appreciate you saying that.
It was the corrective action plan itself, maybe not all the details that I provided, was spoke to by Ms. Barnes during the audit presentation.
Yeah, I just was forgetting that that we were paying the debt on time. It just wasn't booked. I remember the book part more. So, this report was due in July. I'm assuming there's no objections that this was not filed in a timely
Correct.
manner with the board. You read the manager's interpretation, and any issues there?
No.
I'll just note that the policy is pretty succinct and clear to me. I mean, it's pretty clear, and same with the manager's interpretation. So as far as the interpretation goes, you realize that it's justifiable based on the policy.
Yes.
You
Yes.
provided an explanation to it.
Yes.
Did the interpretation address all the aspects?
Yes.
Yes.
And do you believe that the data that's presented here shows that we're in compliance with the manager's interpretation of our policy?
Yes.
Absolutely.
I would agree too. This is one of the areas I think our township does very well in with this part of the policy.
Yes. And should
Anything
be
else?
and should be proud of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. A lot of work.
When I'm out in the community or talking with friends or family, I make sure to lift up how proud I am of our township, so
Yep.
lots of good things to say. Any other questions or comments? We'll move on to 11B, Policy Governance 2.5, Financial Conditions and Activities. We see this 4 times a year. So this is one of our quarterly updates. Mr. Stuhldreher, would you like to speak to this?
Thank you. Policy 2.5, the administration's report begins on page 108 of your agenda packet. As indicated, this is a quarterly policy. Current reporting is due in July of 2024. The high-level wording in the policy states that with respect to actual ongoing financial condition and activities, the township management team shall not cause or allow the development of fiscal jeopardy or a material deviation of actual expenditures from board priorities established in your ends policies. There are 10 or 11 sub-policies that continue to refine and confine the conduct of the administration. I won't read them all, but for instance, one of them says indebt the organization in an amount greater than can be repaid by certain otherwise unencumbered revenues within 60 days. Failure to settle payroll and debts in a timely manner, debt service payments, payroll checks to the employees, along with requisite reporting to the state and federal agencies. The rest of those I'll let you read at your leisure. I interpret this policy to state that there will be no expenditures that are made that exceed the expenditures that have been approved as part of the budget process, unless it's of an emergency nature as outlined in 2.5.6, that all tax payments to other governmental entities, which are driven again by statute, are to be made according to that statute, and that we process accounts payable invoices timely and are ready for board approval, and that is primarily in support of our business community and the vendors that do work with the township. I believe this justification is reasonable. The budget, when it's approved by the board, that sets the policy direction of the organization, the community, and then it's left to the management team to effectuate that, operate within the guidelines established by the board during that budget review process. There are several pages in your agenda packet that speak to budget, to actual for all the funds that you approved a budget for. We're in good shape there. I'd argue that all the expenditures that we make are in one way or another directly or indirectly in support of the global ends that are articulated in your policy document. We have not used any general fund reserves in a number of years. The annual audit, the reporting, it's called NEF 65 that goes to the state. We also have to file qualifying statements with the Department of Treasury and bond disclosures for the folks that have loaned us money through the bonding process over the years. All those were filed on time and to the appropriate entities. All funds have very strong cash flow positions, which enable us to make all our bills and payments timely. So based on that, I would argue that we are in compliance with 2.5 as well. Happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Two things. No, it's not a question or anything like that. One thing I'd like just to point out, I think it's great that we're still putting out the financials like this on a line-by-line basis so that everybody out there can see exactly what we're paying for on a line-by-line, and there's no questions. It's all very transparent, and it's great to see. Another thing, too, is like when we look at legal and attorney for especially the MTT cases, so if anybody's looking at that, that would be the Michigan Tax Tribunal cases. $22,400 have spent in this first 6 months. And the public got to remember is that with the township being tasked with assessing of all properties, any appeals to those has to be paid for by the township. Township has benefited through this, through the assessment and stuff like this, but we've got to remember this also benefits IRIDE. This also benefits the county. This also benefits a lot of other taxing entities in this community, not just the township. So the township is bearing the brunt of the cost on the assessing and fighting those appeals on the assessments, not only for the township, but for every entity in the county. And so I just want to make sure that when if people read it close enough and see that, it's not, the township just isn't doing it to protect its own, millages and stuff like that. This is done for overall taxation in the countywide.
And if I may piggyback onto that point, we've had at least 2 to date appraisals done for some of these subject properties. Those are not cheap, $6,000 to $8,000 a shot. We also, whereas in the board of review, the local board of review, the assessor has some role to play, but we do not have the assessor defending the township in front of the tax tribunal. We use Braun Kendrick for that because of just the nature of the subject matter. So it's a necessary expense. I think it's it's money well spent by using an attorney. We can press the petitioner a little harder. They use attorneys as well. And we've had one case withdrawn just because they didn't want to provide all the information we were asking for. So,
Exactly. Good job.
thank you.
So I want to lift something up as well. And it first caught my eye at the last EDA meeting last week. We had our every month EDA meets. We go through every check that needs to be cut, approve every expenditure, as well as get a status of where the budget's at. And looking at the EDA budget, I believe the EDA has earned, forgive me if I get the number wrong, I think it was in the neighborhood of about $60,000 in interest revenue on CDs. And if you look at the general fund here, if I'm reading this right, it was at the 6 month mark, almost $199,000 in interest earned. And that's because our financial director is aggressive in making sure that the money that we have that's not spoken for is being used wisely. Mm-hmm. And that $200,000 could go a long way to help this community. It's nice to be in a position to be able to do that. So I'm assuming Director Teal, with maybe direction of our managers, make that happen. It's awesome to see.
Yes, interest rates are higher this year than last year, so we had budgeted more. We do try to keep, we have a lot of cash, available cash, so we try to keep it in interest-bearing accounts, primarily CDs. Most of these have been with Isabella Bank, which is our primary banker, and has been probably for decades. We have had some recent discussions with Mercantile Bank to talk to them about bidding on CDs, and not anything more than the CD work, not talking about contemplating going to a different bank from Isabella Bank for our main operating account, but just trying to bring a little competition into the CD arena, which helps with these kind of numbers as well. So, thank you.
I'm just amazed. I mean, just between those two funds that are listed, actually it's three. It's West EDA or West DDA, East DDA, and our general fund. That's $250,000 working for our residents that we didn't have.
Well, we're supposed to do that.
No, we are,
That's
but
our job.
it's really pleasing to see.
Yeah, because we didn't get any the last few years because there was no interest rate to be had.
Playing some catch up now. Let's see. Forgive me. Got to scroll through all the. Any other comments? Questions? This also was due in July. It's actually due 4 times a year. So I guess I would assume there's no objections to the report being submitted on time.
Right.
No.
You read the manager's interpretation. This one's a little bit more lengthy, the policy and response to it. Did it lay out the definition of policy?
Yes. Yes.
To me, yes.
Any issues with the interpretation that needs clarification?
No.
No.
Does the interpretation address all the aspects of the policy? It's a lengthy one.
Yes. It yes.
And do you feel that we're in compliance?
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Absolutely.
And the hard question always is anything missing that should be there?
I'd have to be a better pay grade than this to know that, honestly. I'm not an accountant.
Well, I'll move us on then if there's no objections. That brings us to item 11C on our agenda, Policy Governance 4.4, Township Management Team Performance. And just to note, next month, I believe probably at our second August meeting, we'll be looking at 4.5, which is the process of the manager evaluation. And in your packet, of course, is the tool we've used in the past for that. So before we leave this item, we can go through the 4.4, but before we leave, I want to discuss the 4.5 a little bit on how we'd like to handle it this year, based on learning that we've done in the past. So we have a plan moving forward. Okay?
Thought we, okay.
We agreed, and I just want to make sure we're all still on the same page. We agreed to it last year. Mr. Stuhljar, do you have anything you need to add to this?
Not to 4.4.
Okay. Fair enough. Read through the policy. Basically says we need to do this monitoring process, which is what we do every month. Not only monitoring the manager, but ourselves and the management team. Any issues with the policy as far as us being in compliance or not?
I don't have any
No
issues.
issues.
Is there anything you think we should improve upon in the process, or learn or discuss to live better to our policy?
No.
Good. Okay, so just preview 4.5. Last year, we took a couple steps to go through the evaluation of the manager. We went through it together, collated that, presented a common voice, right? So it was one evaluation presented by the board from all of us. Is that still the way you want to do it?
Loved it. It
Yes.
was great. I thought it was great.
And
Yes.
Want your feedback too, that worked well for you. So
Yep.
we'll continue that process. So in August, bring your completed tools in so that we're ready for
To the
discussion on
first
those.
meeting or the second meeting?
Second meeting, right?
All right.
Second meeting will be the 4.5.
Yep.
Anything else from anybody on that?
No,
No.
We know what we're doing.
we should
It's our
know.
fourth year together now, right?
It feels like we just did it last month.
It does.
I mean,
I was thinking the same thing.
We're doing it again.
All right, so if we're all good, we'll move on to extended public comment. Item 12 on the agenda. Extended public comment is restricted to 5 minutes. 5 minutes regarding any issue. If you choose to address the public, please state your name and address for the record. And with that, we'll open up extended public comment at 7:41 p.m. Give it just a moment while we're waiting for anybody, just a late arrival in the room. I'll note that there's nobody connected remotely offering public comment. And still seeing no one coming forward, we'll close extended public comment, at 7:41 p.m. Item 13 on our agenda, manager's comments. Mr. Stuhldreher?
Just a couple briefly. I want to publicly welcome Mr. Jacob Plant, who we started this past Monday, our newest employee with the township as a skilled laborer. He's filling the position of, I believe it was Nolan Ockert, that was promoted to a wastewater operator. He was a skilled laborer, moved up into that position, caused the opening, so I want to welcome him. A reminder that the hall will be closed to business or to the public, but fully staffed on election day to help facilitate the traffic that's expected. Since this room is a precinct location, we'll put the notices up probably by the end of this week, so they're out there for a full week. And then want to let the board know, you may recall, it's been a couple of years now, that the Board of Trustees, I believe it was through resolution, acknowledged their commitment to partner with the city and other partners to put in the pathway from Harris/Crawford up to Mission Creek Park. And we're going to have a participation agreement related to that with the city. They'll be doing their side, we'll be doing our side, and that adds more formality and weight to our commitment there. We do have that budgeted this year. Doesn't look like the work will get done until 2025. We're going to be, and our commitment is $375,000, as I believe. The tribe's involved, the city, Union Township, and there might be another partner that I'm missing. We're going to be using ARPA funds for that, and by executing the participation agreement this year, that will satisfy the rule where you have to have commitments made by the end of 2024, and then the work is widely expected to be completed in 2025. So that participation agreement, I would guess, will be at your first August meeting. So I just want to give you a little heads up on that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm
Yep,
excited.
that's good news.
That's all I have, so thank you.
Just as a reminder, the pathway that we're responsible for essentially is from the park, Mission Creek Park, up to River Road. Is that correct? I know the pathway is geared to come from the city all the way down Crawford, that mile stretch.
The pathway that we're talking about this section of it anyways, is from Pickard and Harris. Is it Harris or Harrison? Harris. On the, it is slated to be now on the west side of the street, heading north, and it will terminate at the entrance to Mission Creek Park, and then there'll be a, what I'm describing and insisting on is a proper crosswalk,
Yeah.
because it's essentially a mid-block crossing
Exactly.
into the entrance of the park. What is still in our plans is trying to continue that pathway, whether it's on the west or the east side of the road, on up to, I believe that's River Road, just at the end of the Fox Meadow subdivision, where hopefully it would continue east and then north on Mission, long term, towards Clare.
So I appreciate that. I guess I either didn't remember or had forgotten, maybe, that the tribe, we were using the west side now, because last I remember, they weren't sure what side of the road it was going to go on.
It was
And
originally
so-
slated for the east side. And then the tribe became more involved, I think, and based on their plans for their property on the west side, they have concluded that it makes more sense for them, and we're probably indifferent, makes more sense for them to be going up the west side, and with their financial contribution being sizable, we're fine with
Wow.
that. We had, and this goes back a while, but when we approved the development for the Coyne residences, there's now like 3 of them there, we had gotten commitments from Mr. Coyne to put easements along the, or to grant us easements so we could put the path along the east side. But now that's plans have shifted, and it's gonna be on the west side.
All right. Well, public thank you to the tribe for their willingness and desire to jump in on this.
I think it's a win-win.
It's a
And it'll
win-win.
be a pathway, not a sidewalk.
Yes, right.
Great.
Which ultimately will really connect, just for public, will connect the Mission Creek Park with the other city park systems.
Heading south, the city on its own is doing some work to effectively connect all that.
Right. I don't know if that's slated for this year or next, but that's part of their plan, and
It's part of the plan, and I think it's next year as well, but don't quote me.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Final board member comment? Trustee Brown?
Sure, I just want to put this out there on the consent agenda. I did have warrants. Everything was good. We didn't put that, I just want to
I
put
thought
that.
of it later
just wanna
afterwards,
put that
and
out
I'm
there,
glad you
make sure it's on.
Pointed that out.
Other than that, looks like it's gonna be a nice weekend. Everybody be safe.
What
You're good?
about next weekend?
I said
Oh,
it's
have
gonna
a
be a
nice
nice
week- oh.
weekend. Yep, it's gonna be a nice weekend.
I am gonna have a nice weekend. It's my birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. I just want to say that I hope everybody's enjoying the weather. Summer's short and winter's gonna come soon. I'm sorry.
Wow.
Gee.
It is, man. I was thinking about it. It's the end of July.
Out of order.
Hey, I like having a nice weekend.
Yeah. All right.
Oh, that was harsh.
I know.
Let's move on.
Nothing to say after that. I'm down at